Well, a new twist to an old urban legend has resulted in widespread reminders for parents to keep an eye on the internet habits of their children. Some local after-school programs have even sent home tips on how to talk to your children about the momo challenge. Dr. Janine Hubbard is a child psychologist and a regular guest here on VOCM's Morning Show. She joins me live in studio. Good to see you as always, Dr. Hubbard.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, you've had to do some research about this momo challenge. What exactly is this?
Well, here's what it supposedly is, or the information that's been shared and kids are understanding, is that a very creepy, sort of human-like image appears either is part of a YouTube video or as part of kind of a friend request on WhatsApp or Snapchat or something like that. And it supposedly makes requests of the kids. Sort of says, it starts fairly innocently. Go and do a fairly innocent little task and come back and tell me about it. And part of the myth or the legend with it is that it then escalates to things like self-harm and suicide and threats against parents. We have no evidence that has actually happened. There certainly are images out there. There are videos out there. What's exactly been happening with them is still very mixed messages. But what we do know is kids have heard about it and they're really freaked out by it.
And that's all that needs to happen.
Yep.
They've heard about it and now they're freaked out. So what kind of concerns should parents be displaying, and how do you deal with it when you have one of the so-called freaked out kids?
Sure. Well, and it's an important reminder for us as adults not to dismiss their fears, because we look at this image and go, okay, come on. It's really important to validate their fears, to remember that, especially for very young children, they have real difficulty separating fact and fiction, and so they can legitimately believe that this image is living and could come to visit them and could, come and cause harm to them. So it's working with them to understand their fears, listen to them, ask them, what have you heard? What do you understand about it? What are you worried about? And then help them problem solve their way through it. And sometimes it helps show them the actual statue or carving that it was made of, to kind of say, look, no, it's a piece of artwork. It's not like something that is a living entity. And walk them through, okay, if you got a request from Momo to, send them your phone number, what would you do? Well, obviously, you wouldn't send them your phone number. You would hope that, to try to alleviate some of those fears.
For us growing up, it was ghost stories and the boogeyman's under the bed or something's in the closet.
Oh, we all had Bloody Mary.
We all had it. Absolutely right.
Absolutely.
How different is it now with their internet habits? And some of the things they look at are so real, so lifelike, mythical.
Absolutely.
And it gets into their mind that most everything they see can possibly be real. So how different is it to deal with my boogeyman fears as a little boy versus how I deal with an internet-driven fear for now children these days?
Well, first of all, we've got the visual images, and a lot of this is being experienced on their own, as opposed to us when we heard the boogeyman stories. It was usually around a campfire or a recess, whereas here you've got kids by themselves without kind of other peers around to kind of go, oh no, don't worry about it, or without parents necessarily kind of going, no, this is actually what's happening here. So that isolation can certainly be a factor.
What do you say to kids? It's one thing to talk about how the parents are dealing with their concerned child, but sometimes the kids don't want to bring these stories to mom and dad. They think it's something private just to be shared with their friends.
Yep, and if it's something that's kind of enjoyable, because let's face it, we all, to a certain degree, enjoy a good scare. Again, that's why ghost stories have perpetuated for so long. But there are a lot of kids where it goes beyond just kind of that enjoyment, and it really is leading to fear. There's been a lot of disrupted sleep this week. There's been a lot of kids concerned about what's been going on. And the biggest thing we have, and the biggest message I can have, is talk to your kids and let them know that anytime they see something online that makes them nervous, uncomfortable, scared, or ask them to do something and not tell their parents, they absolutely need to talk to people about it, and that they won't get in trouble, because all of the kids have heard here are the things you're allowed to look at online, here are the things you're not allowed to, and they're really worried about getting in trouble for having seen something that they weren't supposed to.
Open line of communication, like always.
Absolutely.
Before we run out of time here, this is just shifting gears a little bit. Yeah. Linda Swain did a really interesting, I think, heartbreaking interview with the sister of the now deceased Calvin Kenny, convicted killer, and he was found badly injured in his cell while serving time in New Brunswick. He eventually died. The link between ADHD and drug addiction and what eventually became in Mr. Kenny's life. What do people need to know?
It's really important to know that untreated, undiagnosed ADHD absolutely can lead to things like self-medicating to try to address the symptoms, which can lead to drug and alcohol use, which can lead to substance use and addictions, which unfortunately can often lead to a pattern of life and incarceration. So really the story was heartbreaking when I was listening to it, but for me it really highlighted again the need for early identification, early assessment, and early treatment. If you have any suspicions at all that you have a kid with ADHD symptoms, don't let it ride. Get medical attention for it.
Yeah, we're not trying to make him out to be a sympathetic figure. We're not trying to make an excuse for him. We're trying to illustrate a path that can lead to the ultimate very tragic tale of Calvin Kenny's life. And
we know that not everybody with ADHD goes down that path, but we do know that there is a fairly significant percentage of individuals, if they're not getting the right support and treatment, that is one of the possible outcomes.